Claire Brennan had worked in the pediatric emergency room at St. Michael's Hospital in Newark for 7 years. She had seen everything from broken bones to swallowed coins, from allergic reactions to cases that made her stomach turn. Tonight was supposed to be quiet, a Tuesday evening shift winding down toward midnight. Then the doors burst open and 4 men in expensive suits rushed in carrying a screaming child. The boy was maybe 6 years old, clutching his left arm against his chest, tears streaming down his face. The men surrounded him like a protective wall, their eyes scanning the room with military precision. Claire immediately recognized the signs of private security. These were not regular fathers bringing in an injured child. The largest man approached the nurse's station. "We need a doctor. Now. The boy has been burned." Claire moved forward professionally. "I am a pediatric nurse. Let me examine him first and determine the severity." "What is his name?" The man hesitated, then said simply, "Call him Angelo. That is all you need to know." Claire led them to a private examination room, noting how the security detail positioned themselves at the door and window. One man stayed outside in the hallway. Another stood by the door inside the room. This level of protection meant the child was important, probably the son or grandson of someone powerful. Angelo continued crying, his small body shaking. Claire knelt beside him, keeping her voice calm and gentle. "Angelo, my name is Claire. I am going to look at your arm and help you feel better, okay? Can you show me where it hurts?" The boy extended his left forearm slowly. Even through his tears, Claire could see he was trying to be brave. She carefully rolled up his sleeve and stopped breathing. The burn was severe, 2nd degree at minimum, covering an area about 3 inches across on his inner forearm. But what made Claire's blood run cold was not the severity. It was the shape. The burn formed a perfect symbol, a serpent coiled around a dagger. Claire recognized it immediately. She had grown up in Newark, in neighborhoods controlled by organized crime. That symbol belonged to the Moretti family, the most violent crime organization in New Jersey. Claire's hands trembled slightly as she examined the burn more closely. This was not an accident. Someone had deliberately pressed a heated brand into this child's skin, marking him with their family crest. It was a message, a threat, an act of war. "How did this happen?" Claire asked, keeping her voice professional despite her racing heart. The security men exchanged glances. Finally, one spoke. "The boy was playing in the yard. Someone must have grabbed him, burned him, and ran before we could respond." It was a lie. Claire could hear it in his voice. But she could not press the issue without risking her own safety. She focused on Angelo. "Sweetie, this is going to hurt, but I need to clean the burn and put medicine on it. Can you be brave for me?" Angelo nodded, biting his lip. As Claire worked, cleaning the wound with saline solution and applying antibiotic ointment, she studied the burn pattern again. The detail was too precise for a rushed attack. Someone had taken their time, holding this child down long enough to create a perfect brand. Claire felt sick. A doctor entered the room, Dr. Raymond Palmer, the attending physician on duty. He took one look at the burn and his expression hardened. "This needs to be reported to Child Protective Services. This is clearly abuse." The largest security guard stepped forward immediately. "No reports. We handle this privately." Dr. Palmer stood his ground. "I have a legal obligation to report suspected child abuse. That burn was inflicted intentionally. I can see that clearly." The guard's hand moved to his jacket, and Claire saw the outline of a weapon. Her heart stopped. Dr. Palmer saw it too and went pale. Before the situation could escalate, the examination room door opened again. A man in his 60s entered, and the security detail immediately stepped back with deference. He was distinguished, with silver hair and sharp eyes that took in everything at once. He wore a tailored suit and carried himself with absolute authority. Claire knew who he was before anyone spoke. Salvatore Castellano, head of the Castellano crime family. Angelo's grandfather. Salvatore approached the examination table where Angelo sat with fresh bandages on his arm. No, the boy whispered, using the Italian word for grandfather. Salvatore kissed the top of Angelo's head gently, then turned those sharp eyes on Dr. Palmer. There will be no reports to any authorities. My grandson's injury is a private family matter. You will treat him, provide appropriate pain medication, and forget you ever saw him. In exchange, I will make a generous donation to your hospital. Dr. Palmer's jaw tightened. Mr. Castellano, I cannot. You can and you will, Salvatore interrupted quietly. Because if you make this a legal matter, you will discover exactly how much influence I have over this hospital's board of directors, its funding sources, and your own medical license. The threat was delivered calmly, almost politely, which made it more effective. Dr. Palmer looked at Claire, then at Angelo, then back at Salvatore. Fine. But I want it documented that I objected to this. Salvatore smiled without warmth. Document whatever helps you sleep at night, doctor. Dr. Palmer left to prepare discharge papers and prescriptions. Claire remained with Angelo, finishing the bandaging. Salvatore watched her work with careful attention. You are skilled with children, he observed. What is your name? Claire Brennan, sir. Salvatore nodded. Irish. Newark born. Yes, sir. St. Lucy's Parish. Recognition flickered in Salvatore's eyes. That parish was in his territory, under his protection. Your father is Daniel Brennan? Used to work the docks. Claire's hands stilled. Yes. He died 10 years ago. Cancer. I remember him. Honest man. Hard worker. Refused to get involved in union politics even when it cost him. Salvatore's voice softened slightly. You have his eyes. The moment felt surreal. A mafia boss reminiscing about her father while his burned grandson sat between them. Claire focused on taping the bandage securely. Mr. Castellano, whoever did this to Angelo, used a branding iron. The Moretti family crest. This was deliberate, carefully planned. Someone held your grandson down and marked him like cattle. Salvatore's expression went deadly cold. I know exactly who did this, and they will pay in blood. Claire should have stayed quiet. She should have finished her work and let the Castellano family handle their war privately. But she thought about Angelo, only 6 years old, traumatized and in pain because of adult violence. Sir, with respect, more violence will just lead to more retaliation. Someone will strike back, and children might get hurt again. This needs to stop. Salvatore studied her for a long moment. You have courage, Claire Brennan. Or foolishness. I have not decided which. He gestured to one of his guards, who handed him a folder. The Moretti family has been pushing into my territory for 6 months. I have tried negotiation, boundary agreements, peaceful solutions. They responded by branding my grandson with their family crest. Peace is no longer an option. He showed Claire a photo from the folder. It showed a meeting between Moretti soldiers and someone Claire recognized with shock. Captain Frank Morrison of the Newark Police Department. The Morettis have police protection now, Salvatore continued. Which means they think they are untouchable. Which means they will keep escalating until I respond with overwhelming force. Claire looked at the photo, her mind racing. If the police were protecting the Moretti family, then reporting Angelo's injury would do nothing except put a target on her back. What are you going to do? She asked quietly. Salvatore closed the folder. What I must. The Morettis branded my grandson to send a message. We can reach your family anytime, anywhere. I will send a message back. By this time tomorrow, the Moretti leadership will be eliminated. Claire felt cold. You are talking about starting a war. I am talking about ending one before it truly begins, Salvatore corrected. Quick, decisive action. No drawn-out conflict. No more children hurt. He looked at Angelo, who had fallen asleep on the examination table from exhaustion and pain medication. My grandson will carry that scar for the rest of his life. Every time he looks at his arm, he will remember being held down and burned. That memory will shape him, harden him, prepare him for the life he was born into. Salvatore's voice was quiet but fierce. I would give anything to spare him from this world. But I cannot. So instead, I will make sure no one ever dares to touch him again. Dr. Palmer returned with discharge papers. Claire signed off on the treatment notes while the security detail prepared to move Angelo. As they wrapped the sleeping boy in a blanket, Salvatore turned to Claire one final time. You will not speak of what you saw tonight. Not to colleagues, not to friends, not to police. Do you understand? Claire nodded. I understand. Good. Salvatore pulled out a business card and handed it to her. If you ever need anything, medical bills paid, problem solved, favor granted, you call that number. Your father was a good man who never asked me for help even when he needed it. I owe his daughter a debt. Claire took the card, knowing it was both a gift and a leash. Salvatore Castellano had just placed her under his protection, which meant she was now connected to his world whether she wanted to be or not. The Castellano family left the hospital like a small army, surrounding Angelo protectively. Claire stood in the empty examination room, staring at the blood-stained gauze in the trash and the business card in her hand. She had just become a witness to what could start a gang war. Claire finished her shift at 2 in the morning and drove home in a daze. Her apartment in Ironbound felt less safe than usual, every shadow suspicious. She lay in bed replaying the night, seeing Angelo's burn over and over in her mind. That precise serpent coiled around a dagger, seared into a child's flesh. Around 4 in the morning, her phone buzzed with a news alert. Breaking. 3 members of the Moretti crime family found dead in apparent gang-related shooting. Police investigating. Claire's stomach turned. It had already begun. Salvatore had moved faster than she expected. She checked the article for details. Dominic Moretti, the family underboss, and 2 of his top soldiers had been killed execution-style in a warehouse in Hoboken. Police had no suspects but acknowledged this appeared to be organized crime retaliation. The article mentioned increased tension between Newark's crime families and warned of potential violent spillover. Claire thought about calling the police, telling them about Angelo's burn, making a statement. But what would it accomplish? The Morettis had police protection. Her testimony would disappear, and she would become a target. Salvatore had been right about one thing. The system could not help here. The next day, Claire called in sick to work. She could not face the hospital, the memories, the questions. She sat in her apartment watching news coverage of the Moretti killings. By noon, the death toll had risen to 5. The Moretti family's response had been swift. 2 Castellano businesses had been firebombed. A Castellano soldier was found shot in his car. The war Salvatore had tried to prevent with quick action was happening anyway, escalating faster than anyone could control. Claire's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her pick up. Claire Brennan. A woman's voice, professional and cold. This is Detective Angela Rossi with the Newark PD. I need to ask you some questions about a patient you treated last night. Claire's heart raced. I cannot discuss patients. Privacy laws. The patient was Angelo Castellano, age 6, treated for severe burns. I know you saw him because I pulled the hospital logs. I also know that burn was intentionally inflicted with a branding iron bearing the Moretti family crest. That makes it evidence in an assault case, possibly child abuse, and now potentially connected to 5 murders. Claire gripped the phone tighter. I treated a burned child. That is all I can tell you. Detective Rossi's voice hardened. Miss Brennan, people are dying. This gang war will not stop until someone provides information that allows us to make arrests. You are a witness to a crime. You have a moral and legal obligation to cooperate. Claire thought about the photo Salvatore had shown her, Captain Morrison meeting with Moretti soldiers. Are you working with Captain Frank Morrison on this investigation? There was a pause. Why do you ask? Because I need to know if I can trust you, Claire said carefully. Before I say anything, I need to know this conversation stays between us. Another pause, longer this time. Captain Morrison is not involved in my investigation. It is just me. I am working independently because I suspect corruption in my department. If you know something about Morrison, I need to hear it. Claire made a decision. Meet me at the coffee shop on Ferry Street in 1 hour. Come alone, plain clothes, no backup. If I see any other cops, I walk away. I will be there, Detective Rossi promised. Claire hung up and immediately regretted agreeing to the meeting. She was about to give information to the police about Salvatore Castellano. If he found out, the protection he offered would turn into a death sentence. Claire arrived at the coffee shop early and chose a table with a view of the entrance and a back exit. At exactly 3 o'clock, a woman in jeans and a leather jacket entered. She was in her late 30s with tired eyes and the kind of wariness that came from years of police work. Detective Rossi ordered coffee and sat down across from Claire. Thank you for meeting me. I know this takes courage. Claire did not feel courageous. She felt terrified. Before I say anything, I need your word that my name stays out of any reports. I am not testifying in court. I am just sharing information off the record. Detective Rossi considered this. I cannot promise total anonymity if this goes to trial. But I can keep you out of initial reports and try to protect your identity as long as possible. That is the best I can offer. It would have to be enough. Claire took a deep breath. Last night, I treated Angelo Castellano for a severe burn shaped like the Moretti family crest. Salvatore Castellano was there. He showed me evidence that Captain Morrison has been meeting with Moretti family members. He implied Morrison is providing them protection. Detective Rossi's expression did not change, but her eyes sharpened. Did you see this evidence yourself? Claire nodded. A photograph. It showed Morrison meeting with men in suits outside what looked like a warehouse. Salvatore said the Morettis had police protection, which is why he felt justified in taking direct action against them. Detective Rossi pulled out a small notebook. Did Salvatore Castellano specifically tell you he was planning to kill Moretti family members? He said the Moretti leadership would be eliminated within 24 hours. This was around midnight. The first bodies were found at 4 in the morning. Claire leaned forward. Detective, whoever burned that child with a branding iron committed a serious crime. But Salvatore's response has turned this into a bloodbath. Both sides are wrong. The question is how to stop it before more people die. Detective Rossi tapped her pen against the notebook. Morrison's involvement explains why my corruption investigation has been blocked at every turn. If he is protecting the Morettis, he has been feeding them information about police operations, warning them about raids, helping them avoid arrests. She looked at Claire directly. I need that photograph Salvatore showed you. Without it, I cannot move against Morrison, and without removing Morrison, I cannot stop the Morettis from escalating this war. Claire shook her head. I do not have access to that photograph. Salvatore keeps it. And I cannot ask him for it without revealing that I talked to you. Detective Rossi cursed softly. Then we need another way to get evidence against Morrison. She thought for a moment. The Morettis branded Angelo to provoke exactly this response from Salvatore. They wanted a war because they thought Morrison's protection made them untouchable. If we can prove Morrison is corrupt and arrest him, the Morettis lose their shield. Then maybe Salvatore will agree to a ceasefire. Claire saw the logic but also the massive risk. How do you prove Morrison is corrupt without the photograph? I have been building a case for months. I have financial records showing deposits into Morrison's accounts that do not match his salary. I have witness statements from arrested dealers who claim Morrison tipped them off about raids. What I am missing is direct evidence of Morrison meeting with family leadership. If I could get Morrison on tape accepting money or discussing operations, I could move forward with charges. Detective Rossi looked at Claire carefully. You have access to Salvatore Castellano. He owes you a debt. You saved his grandson. Maybe you could convince him to work with me. Share evidence. Help take down Morrison in exchange for reduced charges. Claire almost laughed. You want me to ask a mafia boss to become a police informant? He would kill me just for suggesting it. Not an informant. A temporary ally against a common enemy, Detective Rossi corrected. Morrison's corruption protects the Morettis, which means Morrison is indirectly responsible for Angelo's injury. Salvatore wants revenge against everyone involved. Helping me arrest Morrison gets him that revenge legally. It was insane. It was also the only idea that made any sense. Claire thought about Angelo's scared face, his tears, the scar he would carry forever. She thought about the 5 people already dead and the violence that would continue until someone stopped it. If I talk to Salvatore, I need protection. Not from him, but from the Morettis. If they find out I am involved in this, they will come after me. Detective Rossi nodded. I can arrange protection. Safe house, new identity if necessary. But Claire, I need you to understand the risk. If Salvatore refuses to cooperate and decides you are a threat, I might not be able to protect you from him. Claire stood up. I will think about it. Give me 24 hours. She walked out of the coffee shop feeling like she had just signed her own death warrant. That night, Claire pulled out Salvatore's business card. The number printed on it was simple, no name or company attached. She stared at it for an hour before finally dialing. A male voice answered. Yes. This is Claire Brennan. I need to speak with Mr. Castellano. It is urgent. There was a pause. Hold, please. 2 minutes later, Salvatore's voice came through the phone. Miss Brennan, I did not expect to hear from you so soon. Is something wrong? Claire's mouth was dry. I was contacted by a detective investigating the Morrison corruption and the gang war. She knows about Angelo's burn. She is building a case against Captain Morrison but needs evidence. The photograph you showed me, of Morrison meeting with the Morettis, she needs it. Silence on the other end. Claire continued quickly. I know this is not my business. I know I am risking everything by even suggesting this. But Detective Rossi is working independently. She is not part of Morrison's corrupt network. If you help her take down Morrison, the Morettis lose their police protection. Then you can negotiate an actual peace instead of fighting a war that will cost more lives on both sides. Salvatore's voice was dangerous. You spoke to the police about our conversation. About my family. About evidence I showed you in confidence. I did, Claire admitted, her voice shaking. Because children are being hurt and people are dying, and I cannot stand by and do nothing. You said my father was a good man because he stayed honest even when it cost him. I am my father's daughter. I cannot ignore what is happening. Another long silence. Then Salvatore said, Where are you right now? My apartment. Stay there. I will send a car in 30 minutes. We will discuss this in person. The line went dead. Claire sat on her couch, trembling. She had just confessed to betraying Salvatore Castellano's trust. In 30 minutes, men with guns would arrive at her door. She could run, pack a bag, leave the city, disappear. But running would not stop the war. It would not help Angelo or prevent the next child from being hurt. Claire stayed. When the knock came exactly 30 minutes later, she opened the door to find two of Salvatore's security men. "Mr. Castellano requests your presence. Please come with us." It was phrased as a request, but Claire understood it was an order. She followed them to a black SUV and climbed into the back seat. They drove to a restaurant in the ironbound district, closed for the night but with lights on inside. The guards escorted Claire through the front door into a private dining room. Salvatore sat at a table with a glass of wine, looking older and more tired than he had at the hospital. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Claire sat, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "Thank you for seeing me." Salvatore poured a second glass of wine and pushed it toward her. "You are either remarkably brave or remarkably stupid. I have not decided which." He leaned back. "You spoke to a detective about my family, about evidence I possess, about my plans. In my world, that makes you a liability. People have died for less." Claire's hands shook, but she kept her voice steady. "I understand. But I also know you are not like the Morettis. You do not hurt children. You protect your neighborhood. My father respected you because you had a code. I am gambling that code still means something." Salvatore smiled slightly. "Your father's stubbornness lives on in you." He sipped his wine. "Tell me about this detective. Can she be trusted?" Claire explained everything Detective Rossi had told her: the corruption investigation, the evidence against Morrison, the need for proof of direct contact between Morrison and the Morettis. Salvatore listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "If I give this detective the evidence she needs, Morrison gets arrested. The Morettis lose their protection. But it also means I am cooperating with the police, which makes me look weak to other families." He met Claire's eyes. "In my world, reputation is everything. If I am seen as weak, others will challenge me. More violence, more chaos." Claire leaned forward. "But if Morrison is arrested publicly, with evidence of his corruption, you look like the victim of a conspiracy between dirty cops and your enemies. You are not weak. You are the one who exposed the corruption. You become the man who stood up for his family and his neighborhood against crooked police and the Morettis both." Salvatore considered this. A dangerous gamble. "Everything is dangerous right now," Claire said. "The question is which path leads to the least harm." Salvatore stood and walked to the window overlooking the street. "I started this life to protect people. My neighborhood, my family, my community. Somewhere along the way, it became about power and territory and revenge. Angelo's burn reminded me what truly matters." He turned back to Claire. "I will meet with your detective. I will provide evidence against Morrison. But in exchange, I want her word that this investigation focuses on Morrison and the Morettis. My family's other business stays out of it." Claire nodded. "I will arrange a meeting." Salvatore walked her to the door. "Claire Brennan, you have more courage than most of my soldiers. Your father would be proud." 3 days later, Captain Frank Morrison was arrested by federal agents on charges of corruption, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. The evidence included photographs of him meeting with Moretti family members, financial records, and testimony from Salvatore Castellano, who agreed to cooperate in exchange for immunity on related charges. With Morrison gone, the Moretti family lost their police protection. A ceasefire was negotiated between the families, brokered by Detective Rossi and community leaders. Angelo Castellano would carry his scar forever, but no more children were hurt in the conflict. Claire returned to work at St. Michael's Hospital, treating broken bones and swallowed coins and everything in between. She kept Salvatore's business card in her wallet, a reminder that sometimes courage meant getting involved when staying invisible would be easier. And sometimes the smallest actions, Treating a child's burn, making a phone call, choosing truth over safety, could stop a war before it destroyed everything.